Good evening, and welcome to another edition of Real Talk with Michelle. My guest this evening is Dr. Pastor Dominique Best. Let me introduce you to Dominique Best. He is a graduate of Oakwood University with a bachelor's in religion and theology. He is also a graduate of Andrews University Seminary with a Master of Divinity and Charleston School of Law with a Doctor of Jurisprudence degree. He has served in the South Atlantic Conference as a senior pastor for the past 12 years, and he is passionate about preaching, teaching, and training relevant disciples of Jesus Christ. He is married to Ebony Best, and they have 2 children, Dominique Best Jr., who is 15, and Peyton Best, who is 10. His interests include playing sports, fishing, hunting, other wildlife activities, community advocacy, and spending time with family. Welcome, Dr. Best, and thank you for being a guest on the show. I really appreciate you making the time.
Thank you for inviting me. I'm happy to be here.
Thank you. So let's dive in. We're going to have some real talk.
Okay.
We're going to learn about you, in the introduction, your hobbies, wildlife activities, and fishing and hunting, and where did all that come from?
In Savannah, Georgia. Growing up, I was raised by my mother. Mm-hmm. My father was not in my life early on, so I spent more time with my uncles, his brothers, and those were the things that they liked to do. Wanted to fish, wanted to hunt, and to me, I just like being with the older men. I like being with them, doing what they did. It made me feel like I was a man.
Okay.
So that's where I picked it up. And it bit me.
Okay.
I loved it. Teach my children. All else fails. If all else fails, I know how to feed myself. I'm not going to miss
wildlife
any meals.
Okay.
At the end of the day, I think that's what makes me love it and enjoy it.
Okay. But do you get a chance to indulge in it much these days?
Not now.
Okay.
We might talk about this later, but everything is slowed down for me.
Okay.
Those are the things I want to get back to doing.
Okay.
And the more I'm able to do those type of things, the more I feel myself again. Mm-hmm. And that's also how I gauge myself in my recovery, my healing, and how I challenge myself.
Okay.
But I wholeheartedly intend to have a full recovery, doing everything that I did before 2 years ago.
Okay.
At a better and a higher level.
Okay.
That's my goal.
Okay. That's a good goal to have. Mm-hmm. And we are going to talk about what happened 2 years ago, but before we dive into that, you mentioned growing up without your dad in your life. So share a little bit more about that. Tell me a little bit about your childhood, and tell me what it was like growing up not having a father in your life.
Not having a father in my life. Not having my father in my life, I'll put it that way, made me have a lot of questions. I've always been inquisitive, and it also made me draw closer to positive role models, male role models in my life. One being my grandfather, who for a long time played that role. Everything I know about being a man early on in my life came from my grandfather. Watched how he worked, watched how he dealt with his children, watched how he dealt with us as grandchildren. And there were other cousins of mine. My mother is one of 9 siblings, original siblings, 7 girls, 2 boys. So there were other cousins of mine who also had single parents. My grandfather was an amazing man to us because he was hands-on with all of us, teaching us to do little things. How to brush our hair, how we want to dress as men. We'll look at him and we'll try to imitate him. So I drew close to him and coaches. I played sports, since I was 6 years old. Organized sports, basketball, football were my top two sports, and some of my coaches became real important in my life over the years. So that made me just look at what does a good man, in my mind, my young mind, what does a good man look like? And although I did not have my biological father, again, I had his brothers, very close to his brothers, and other male role models around me that I was able to pick up from. And I was intentional about watching and learning. And also in my church, had good elders around. It made me aware of, I'm a young man, I'm a little boy, I'm going to grow to be a man one day. And I want to be a good man. I want to be a good father. I want to be a good. My grandfather was with my grandmother till he died. My values as a man, I think I picked up more from all the men around me, and I was intentional about doing that because my father wasn't in my life. So.
That's good to hear about your being intentional about your support system, because it helps to mold, and to know that you took it upon yourself and took it in your own hands to know the direction of the kind of man that you wanted to be. So you surrounded yourself with that. But in preparation for this interview, or for this talk rather, in preparation, we talked a little bit, and you told me that you fought a lot. You used to fight a lot, and you mentioned that it was a result of, you know, the feelings of not having the father in your life. So share a little bit about that with us.
Yes. Let me see. So not having my father around. I think as a father, your job is to, now that I have children, some of your job descriptions are going to be to provide, to protect, and again, I grew up with a lot of family around me. My mom, 6 aunts had children, and I was of the youngest. I mean, I probably had over 50, 60 cousins that's older than me, and I'm at the bottom of that list of grandchildren before you start going into grandchildren. And I felt like I had to protect myself from my older cousins. My brother, he's about double me. Some of my cousins from my dad's side, they're way bigger than me. I had a little man complex. And here we're just rough, down in country boys, and to show love is to wrestle, to punch you in the chest. And so to me, actually, it was fighting, but it was playing when I'm with my siblings and with my cousins and my blood. But when I went to school, everybody wasn't as rough. Everybody wasn't raised in that same culture. So it carried over? So to me, I was in my mind, this is how I express my love and how I play and it became an issue though. If somebody's playing with me, I punch him, I hit him, I'm in trouble in school. And when somebody made me mad, that's how I express myself. I punch him. That's what we do. But it never went to the point where I hate you now. We would fight, we play, we punch, and then I love you. Let's go eat. So was it something that you grew up around, you grew up with in the family, play fighting, and then it just kind of seeped out outside, or was it related to any feelings that you had from not having your father in your life? Yeah, I can say that also has something to do with it, but I can't really pinpoint exactly the difference and when this was that, right. Especially now. Later on in life, but there was some parts of me that was angry, and that was due to well, let me see. I think I can pinpoint it to where it went from playing to how I expressed myself to when I was about in third grade, and I remember I was getting ready to meet my father for the first time that I can remember, because he was in the military. He never lived close by, so when he came into town, it was a big thing. At that time, I was in third grade, and I was looking forward to meeting him. I was happy, my father's coming, and I happened to get in a fight in school that day. Principal called my mother, my father showed up with her. Walk into the principal's office, and I'm happy. I'm like, oh, this is my dad. I mean, he looks like my brother. It looks like I'm gonna like this dude. And the very first thing he says to me is, well, what you doing fighting? I'll whoop your behind. You know, that's how we talk. That's how our parents and our culture
but
talk.
Not having been around and to have those first words.
So, I mean, for me, it was deflating because this is the first impression that I'm getting.
And the excitement that you had.
And it didn't go as I thought, as I planned, and as I hoped. Nothing went that way. He said that to me, and it deflated me. And that did make some anger stir up in me towards him. And from that point on, I did not want to have a relationship with him for many years. Honestly, there wasn't many opportunities to develop a relationship with him, but when one did present itself, I was intentional then about blocking it. I didn't want anything to do with him. And I can say probably from that point on, I did maybe start to express some anger and fighting because, but it really had nothing to do with what was going on. Let me back up. Let me say, from that point on, I may have had some issues with anger with my father that was unconscious. Because I did fight a lot. I got in a lot of fights. But I wasn't a stranger to fighting. So honestly, I don't know exactly how it played a role, but if I had to dissect it, I would say it was some anger there that probably did seep into other parts of my life.
Okay, I'm glad you said that last sentence, seep into other parts of your life, because as you were talking about it, my head, I'm thinking, you're a pastor. We preach about forgiveness and letting go of anger. So let's look forward years. I don't know what your feelings are now towards your father, but tell me, as a pastor, having a congregation and knowing what the word says and knowing how you should feel and knowing how you should be, is that something that seeped through and has carried through and has followed you? How is that affecting you as a pastor today? Have you let go of all of that, or how are you dealing with that?
Today, I think I'm still letting go of it. One of the conflicts with being a pastor, parts of your life and your parts of your actual life don't always line up with the life that you preach about, the ideal of a Christian. I'll put it that way. What I believe in theory my life could be and should be doesn't always line up with my actual reality.
And everybody else's. Yeah.
Right, that's one of the conflicts you have. Yeah. But preaching it, teaching it, I know it's important and just as much as negative experiences impact you, positive reinforcements, whether it's through education, reading, learning, preaching, and especially preaching, does start to affect old hurt that you want to hold on to. So, in particular with my father, I was very close to his mother, my grandmother. She was the person I would vent to most about my hatred. That's a strong word. Hatred of my father. And sometimes the disappointment that I felt from him. And she was always a mother to him. She was my grandmother, but that was her son. Always protected him and always also just tried to get me to forgive him. She never discredited how I was feeling, but she also challenged me to get through it. Before she passed, I was already pastor, and she said to me, I was still kind of talking about some issues he and I had, and she's getting ready to pass. She's getting ready to die, and she said, "I want you to promise me one thing, that whether I'm here or not, that you will develop a strong relationship with your father." And I did. I promised her that. At the time, I wasn't still going to I wasn't going to make an intentional effort to do so. But in my mind opened up, and I was more open-minded to having that relationship with him. Also, now I'm married, I have children myself. I know life from a different perspective, and also that moves into the area of forgiving too. I don't know the whole story. I don't know. Yeah. I don't want to know. Yeah. I don't need to know. Yeah. Yeah. But there's so many things I also don't understand, and I've given the benefit of the doubt in certain areas for my father. And preaching it does affect you, because if I preach it, I want to believe it. And a lot of times, there's subjects that I honestly will not preach about. I will not preach about them because I have not been convicted myself. In my preaching, I always want to be authentic.
Be able to.
Yes. Now, there's some things that I'm convicted on that I don't live up to. And I still have to preach those things because at least I'm convicted on them, even if I'm still struggling with them. I preach them. But if something I'm not convicted on, I will not preach on it. I will not preach against it, but I won't preach on it. I won't preach for it. When it comes to forgiveness, I do preach it. I preach it because I want to forgive. Forgiveness, I think, is important. I think it frees you. Yeah, absolutely. And I really don't want to leave here having anger, hatred against anybody. But there are some people on that list still. There are some people. I mean, really.
We're working on crossing them off. We're working.
It's just best we just don't be around each other. And I think that's a safe thing to do too. There's some people I don't want in my presence, and it's probably best if we don't have to see each other. We don't. But I preach on forgiveness intentionally, and a lot of times those are the most heartfelt ones because it's there. I want to live up to what I promised my grandmother, and we're getting there.
Good. Since we're having some real talk, as I listen to you, I'm the one often asking the questions, and sometimes, some viewers may know me, some may not, or know about me. But just listening to you, my father died when I was a little girl, and I grew up not having my father in my life, of course, because he was deceased, and I have 5 brothers. And so my brothers, they all played a different role. I have different relationships with each one. Like, the eldest one, he's like more my father figure, and the youngest one, he's more like my coolest brother, where I can talk about anything. But that father void, even though they're there and I know that they love and they try to fill that gap, there's nothing like having whether it's you're a little girl or a little boy, there's just something there that's missing. So I'm just relating, and it's interesting just hearing your feelings about that. It's interesting.
Right. And that's why, again, when it comes to me, I try to actually be that for my son, be that for my daughter. And it's not as easy as it looks. Yeah. In my mind, this was going to be easy. When I have children, and you get them in this, like I was saying, it ain't what it looked like. I thought this was going to be this. And it's a whole nother story. It's 2 children, same home, same parents, totally different children. I have to parent them differently.
Love them differently.
I miss that. I miss that from my father, and that I think that's what made me angry also, because I feel like I'm a pretty good kid. I probably got in a lot of trouble, but it was always from a good place. I didn't know any better, and I followed directions. Someone just had showed me or told me, I wouldn't have experienced some of the pain, some of the setbacks. I think, although I've done pretty good by my own estimation with my life and my background, I've come a long way. But you always have those what ifs. Yes. If I had learned this lesson 10 years earlier, what might have been the case then? But let all that go. Let it go. There's nothing you can do about it. I do now talk to my father more than I ever have.
Oh, that's good. That's good.
I'm intentional about making those calls.
That's good.
And if I don't hear from him, I don't take it personally.
Right.
I'm busy.
Yeah.
I have my own life going on.
Yeah.
That's not anything out of the ordinary.
Mm-hmm.
They'll pick up the phone and call me, but I can pick up the phone and call him.
Yeah.
And I think I left this out earlier. One of the things that my grandmother said to me, when she said to me, promise me I'm going to make a relationship with my father, I was still young. I started pastoring young. And I told her, I said, well, I've been waiting. He's the father. He's supposed to reach out to me. And she said, well, now, aren't you a pastor? She said, you know the Lord. Your father don't have the relationship with the Lord that you have. So now it's your responsibility. That hurt. I was like, I couldn't argue with her.
Which is why I asked the question about, having those feelings of being a pastor and, is the responsibility now on you at a much higher level?
I've accepted that.
Yeah.
It is.
Yeah.
People are going to be, I think at a certain age, everybody can still not change, but they can adapt here and there. But for the most part, if you get to a certain age, you are who you are, what you are.
Yeah.
And if throughout the years of my life, the interaction from father to son has not changed, it's been pretty consistent in where it is. The thing that's going to change now is irrational. So now I do have to be intentional, and I want that because I had this great relationship with my grandfather and his father too. When I say my grandfather, I was talking about my mother's father, but his father also I was very close to, but he didn't say much. He was more quiet, laid back. Man, I had great respect for just watching him. My mother's father actually talked to me, and he's the Bible reader. He's the Christian in the home. My grandfather had a 3rd grade education, and he listened to the Bible with tapes, and he read them out loud. There's no grandchild, I think, that came over my grandmother's house that did not hear that Bible story being read. I can hear the voice in my ear right now.
That's good.
In the stories. And so that is where a lot of my Christian values came from. My grandfather, my dad's father, more watched him, hard worker. But I had great relationship with both of my grandfathers, which has been very important to me in my growth and my development.
Yeah.
I didn't have a relationship with my father. My children have a relationship with me, their father, but they're missing out on the grandfather relationship.
Aspect. Yeah.
And that my wife's her father's dead, so this is the only living grandfather they have. And so beyond me now, I reach out. Spent Thanksgiving with him.
Nice.
About 3 years ago, so that they can get that relationship with
them.
That's all they hear me talk about. I was your age, my grandfather.
Right. Not your age, my father.
They see me. What about my granddaddy? That's a good question.
Yeah. And now they're at that age where they can build their own relationship with him, and also he's now, I'm sure, aware of his grandchildren and being intentional about making that relationship with them.
He's trying. I just think it's a struggle for him.
Yeah, and that's okay.
He tries.
You have to give credit where credit's due, and we could talk about this all day, which is interesting. I think for me, just listening again and taking it all in. My question for me is, what if? What if my father was, in my life? I wonder what direction, and I ask my mom that sometimes, Mom, what do you think? Where do you think I would be, or what would happen? And credit to the moms, because I'm sure, not having, your father or my father, they try to fill both shoes, both roles. And, it's tough. It's tough.
Superwoman.
Superwoman. Superwoman. Well, that was interesting. Now that was some real talk right there.
I see where this is gonna go. See what she got for me.
Yeah. That was and I appreciate the vulnerability and the honesty. I do. So let's talk a little bit about your pastoral journey. Let's talk about, how did that come about? Was it something that Some pastors will feel, I've talked to a number of pastors, and I have pastors that are friends, and some feel there was this calling, some there was a special aha moment, or how did that come about for you?
Well, as I said, I grew up listening to Bible stories, and this is going to sound bad. As I'm thinking about it, it's going to sound
real talk.
bad.
Real talk.
I was a kid, and when I came to church, sometimes I didn't have a choice.
We're all familiar with that.
The preaching. I didn't care about the announcements and any of that thing, but when the preacher preached, I would listen. I'm always listening to preachers. And I knew some stories because I heard them, but when I heard him preach, I was like, I remember that being a little different. In my head, I'm thinking to myself, no, preacher, maybe I didn't read for myself. I heard this, maybe I missed something. And so I am the kind of person where I'm going to do my research. And so when it came to Bible study, I did that on my own. I wanted to know, I had questions. And in my heart, also, I just believed that there was God. I believed that God was real. I didn't think I want to be a pastor, but I believed that God was real. And I had an interest in the scriptures from my grandfather, listening to him.
Listening to those tapes and reading aloud.
And so when it came to my personal life, as I grew older, I was about 21 when I felt called, and I'll get to that, into the ministry in that route. I was about 21. But going up into my teenage years, going into that early man stage in your 20s, again, I'm trying to piece it all together. And a lot of things did not come together in my life as I would have planned. I made a lot of mistakes during that time that hurt my young heart, that hurt my I know this is real talk.
Yes.
So I'm trying to get real with you. I'm trying to get real with you. I think at that point, maybe I was at Savannah State University. I'm trying to see how to talk about this. Let's say I graduated high school. I started my college career in Savannah, where I'm from, Savannah, Georgia. I was playing football, and so like every young athlete going to college, you think, well, my next level of life is going to be, I'm going to go pro. And I took a injury. I broke my scapular bone, the bone right here, snapped it in half.
Oh my goodness.
Playing football. And so I had to sit out a year. And my freshman year of college didn't look like what I thought it was going to be. Football, I lived in the football dorm, where all just us football players live. There'll be an away game, the whole dorm is empty except maybe 2 or 3 other guys on injury reserve. And we're not supposed to go anywhere. I'm not sitting in here. No, who's gonna stop me? And so
that fighting spirit.
Instead of what I would have been doing in the gym, instead of going on football outings and going away, I'm here, and I just started to play. I started to have fun. I started to live a college life, so to speak. And it led to some places where I got in a lot of trouble. And I caused a lot of problems in my life, and I wanted something different. I didn't care about football anymore, but I did not know what to do.
What direction?
I had no direction.
Yeah.
And those are the times in my life where I started to search for God. And, is there really a God? Is there really, what's going on here? I'm praying, asking for direction, and also I would talk to my current pastor at the time, let him know what I was going through. And I didn't feel like he had answers for me.
Mm-hmm.
Nice guy, I love him, but didn't just feel like he had answers for me. And I'm thinking, how do I get these answers about God? What's God's will for your life? And anybody I asked couldn't tell me. So, being who I am, I decided, well, I'm just going to go and study for myself.
Do your research.
So honestly, when I decided to study theology, I didn't even know that's what I had to study at the time. I had an uncle who was a pastor. I called him and I asked him, what route do I go to study and possibly, what do you pastors do? My question to him. What do you study? And it was 2 o'clock in the morning when I made that call.
Wow.
I was going through, he'll tell you all about it if you ask him to.
So you were restless. You were restless. Yeah.
I just felt lost. I felt empty, and I felt like the road I was on, it just wasn't going anywhere productive. It didn't take long. I was in a mess. So I said, what do I need to study? And he said theology. And I went through Savannah State, all the majors they offer, and I'm looking, and I'm like, they don't offer that here. He started laughing at me. He said, no, you can't find that there. You will need to go to Oakwood, somewhere like that, and study. And I'm the kind of person, once I'm looking, I'm going to do it. I finished out the year, and then I was gone. And one of the things that he mentioned was to make sure before you go on this journey. He prayed with me and did all those type of things. That the Lord is speaking to you because this is a calling. He's the one that explained that whole calling thing to me. This is not a job, it's the calling. These are the things that you want to think about. You have a reputation, you have to protect it. This is something that you don't play with. You don't play with God. And I thought, I didn't know exactly what that means until I went on the journey myself. But one of the things that I did come into, start the track of studying theology, asking God questions, and how do I get to these answers was, this is nothing to play with. So I respected it from day one. There's a lot of things though that you have to unlearn. You have to start to, it's sort of like overnight, I'm going 100 miles an hour one way, now I have to turn around and go
baby
way.
steps. Relearn,
And so, I dove in with both feet, started to study, didn't know anything. I found out. I know a few stories, but studying theology, they break it down from the books of the Bible. And I couldn't have told you the first 5 books of the Bible when I came into studying theology. And I felt like, man, I really have a long way to go. But I also looked at it as a challenge. And I think that one of the things that I have a problem with is getting bored. That was my problem back in the dorm in Savannah State. I'm bored. I need to be challenged. And when I saw, man, this is going to be a challenge, I didn't run from it. I ran to it. So I had to pick up from the bottom, learning the books of the Bible, taking remedial classes. I never went to any kind of, I'm from Savannah. We had a school here, Raymore. And I've never been to any of those schools. I've always been in public school my whole entire life. So I had to come in and I had to start with the babies. Now my character is one that can mingle with just about anybody. And so I met colleagues, but back then classmates, and they were preaching on the weekends, being in class in the week, and I'm thinking, man, I'm way behind the curve.
Late to the game.
But I said, okay, I'm gonna stick with it. What else am I doing? And as time went on, my conversation with some of my classmates started to change. Me asking them questions, how you do this, to, hey man, we got this test coming up. You be answering all the questions in class, And I'm thinking to myself, well, have I caught up? But at the same time, not feeling that confident yet. And so that helped me to just continue going. And once I finally started to step out, take chances, take a preaching engagement, got hired by the conference, started pastoring, I realized that I was competent. And anything that I'm doing, I want to be competent at, first of all. Or I'm not going to have fun. I think anybody will. You won't have fun if you're not competent at your job. And a certain level of competence now started to even fuel me even more to take it to the next level. The conference didn't make me go to seminary. 'Cause I was hired, and then I left full-time ministry after 2 years and went to seminary by choice, because I was in the field. I felt competent, but I still felt like there was a lot more I needed
to learn.
And so I went back to school. I've never been afraid of school. I've been to school really almost all my life, outside of 2 years in between finishing undergrad and starting to pastor. Took 2 years off, went to seminary, and then I came back out of the seminary for 2 years and just worked on my craft as a pastor, unpacked what I had in front of me after seminary and the experiences that I had there. 2 years, and then I went to law school. And I went to law school while I pastored full time. So I've only been out of school since I started kindergarten for 4 years.
Wow.
Till now.
Wow.
Wow. So the school was something I learned how to do. I didn't feel like I had many gifts. I wasn't a singer. I wasn't the best homiletician or anything of that nature. And I'm thinking, I don't have any gifts, but I know how to do school. So I figured this must be my gift, because a lot of people I knew struggle with school. If I had a problem with school, I just didn't do it because I didn't want to. I never had an issue with giving back what was asked of me. And so the other reason I stuck with it is because I feel like if I'm not doing this, then I'm wasting my gift. And of course, what else? The question I'm always asking myself, what else are you going to do? And if I don't have anything else to do, then I might as well do something I know how to do.
So this would be my follow-up question to that. You did all the schooling. You learned everything that you were supposed to and are supposed to regarding becoming a pastor, what's required. So, is it something that's now your passion? Is it one of your passions? Is it something that you're passionate about?
Education? Yes. Because for me...
preaching is teaching, so...
Oh, yeah. Oh, you're talking about preaching?
Yes.
Oh, yeah. Oh,
is
yeah.
It now,
because...
after going through all of that and doing all the schooling and all the requirements, because remember, your path to it was not, the generic path of, you started later in the game.
Yeah.
So is it now one of your passions, or is it your passion now, your pastorship?
Well, I love preaching now because I've seen the value in it. Even as a young person, again, I always listen to the preacher. I always listen to it, and sometimes I felt like, man, this is something to this. This man talking right to me. This is what's going on in my life. How do this person know? I grew up in a Christian family, and I've learned to value preaching.
Learning to value preaching and having preaching as your passion are two different things.
Right.
So
I'm getting there.
Okay.
So it wasn't my passion. When I first started pastoring, that was the least favorite part of my job. I did not like it because, again, I wasn't as I started late. I didn't learn to play with it yet. To me, I was still putting it together. Early on, I actually wrote full manuscripts. I wrote down every single word I would say in a service, and
scripted.
And early on in my assignments that I was given, one church, I had to do everything from beginning to end. To good morning, happy Sabbath.
You were playing all participants.
Amen. Nobody else was up but me.
Why was that? Was it a small church or was it?
It was a small church.
Okay.
And shy people. So I was trying to coach them and to get them to participate, but early on it was all on me. And so I would write out everything, just make sure I wouldn't go wrong. And it went down from when I just had to focus more on preaching. I was writing full manuscripts of my sermons. introduction to conclusion, even to appeals.
Wow. And you would actually read each word as your from your manuscript, or
I would.
it was just a guide,
not
or
per se. No, I was reading it word for word, but I would practice.
Oh.
Because listen, no, I wanted to make sure when I stood up, I would be looked at as genuine. I didn't want to be lost. Public speaking wasn't a gift of mine.
Right.
I had to learn how to do it.
Wow.
And so I would actually, by the time I stepped to the pulpit with a manuscript, I had preached it 3 times already in the mirror to myself. And so there were some parts that I knew, but I would also keep it here so I could skip and I can pick up.
Wow.
But I would not step in the pulpit without a manuscript.
Wow.
It would not happen.
Wow.
And when I saw that, okay, again, I'm practicing. I want to be good at this. I want to be competent. I want to like it. I didn't like it early on. I thought it was a job. It was
it sounded like it.
Spend 40 hours on a sermon a week. If you one professor told our class, if you didn't spend 40 hours a week preparing you a sermon, that you were not doing your job.
Wow.
Yeah, that you were stealing from the sheep.
Wow.
Yes, and so 40 hours, but putting all that time and studying and then to practice it, I took steps, and then I went down from full manuscript to a outline, bullet point outline. I might have my introduction typed out and sometimes my conclusions typed out because those are things I want to make sure I get right. But the bullet points, because I studied the scripture, I could preach and teach.
Divert, and that was going to be my next question. I mean, did you ever deviate from that manuscript in terms of letting the Holy Spirit lead at a certain point or take over?
I did. That was how I challenged myself. Again, I challenged myself to do this. Say, okay, if I can say this whole paragraph word for word now, and why do I need the whole manuscript here? And then one of my professor teachers, going back to school after being and practicing, after pastoring full time, and then going to seminary, when I took preaching class again, it was a different experience than the first time. First time was all academic. Well, now I've done this for a while, and when my professor told me that my manuscript is holding me back.
That's it.
Dr. Havik Williams was her name. I preached my first sermon in that class, manuscript, and she said, you have a very, what did she, I forgot how she put it, but she basically told me that if you let the manuscript go and trust yourself, you can have one of the most powerful voices in this church. I didn't believe her, but I'll put the manuscript down. I'll challenge myself. And
there's no connection with the manuscript. Yeah. I mean, I'm thinking as you're talking to me, if I was one of your congregants and I'm there and you're just reading from a manuscript, I would not be, it's not relatable. That's number one. I mean, it could be, but I think that one-on-one connection that we get and expect from pastors to touch something wouldn't be there. I would probably get up and leave. I would be like,
it's a skill.
Yeah,
it's a skill.
Yeah,
it's a skill. And in homiletics, different styles of preaching, there is that style, but it's unique. You have to know what you're doing. So she challenged me to put it down, and I started. So when I went back, and that's what I started doing. Yeah. And again, I got comfortable now with the bullet points. Yeah. And so it wasn't until I went back in the pastoring after this accident I know that's coming up that we'll talk about. I went back without even notes. It was just something different because now I know I've done the work, not just study, but I actually practice. And I think good preaching is study and actual practice time. Like anything else, swimming, you got to get in the water, you got to kick, you got to move your arms. Sports, you got to go play. You can't just read about them and think you can go out and play something or do something. And so now I've done all these things for years. Anything now that if I feel like I need a crutch now, it's just a crutch. That's what it is. Right. And I put it down. And this for the first time, I'm actually enjoying preaching. This is just this year.
Yeah. Wow.
Enjoy.
And how many years have you been a pastor?
12.
12. And just this year, you started enjoying it.
Just this year.
Wow.
Preaching is fun.
Wow.
And not
it's
work.
supposed to be. Yeah.
It's always been work because I wanted to be. I wanted to make sure I'm doing a good job.
Wow.
I wanted to make sure I'm not wasting time.
Yeah.
And I take it serious.
Yeah.
So
and that's
I've
growth.
always approached it as work. Work.
Wow.
And going through it is I've prepared. I trust my preparation. I trust my study. I hope the Holy Spirit get involved. But now it's beyond just I trust my preparation. I trust my study. I go in now expecting the Holy Spirit to work, and also leaving room for it to work, because now I'm preaching from an overflow instead of a manuscript. I would not deviate from the script. Even if I'm reading it and something come to me, I wouldn't touch it. So it's not in here. You know? And I would think there's been plenty of time I realized this is the Holy Spirit. It's got to be the Holy. Something good came. This is really preached, but it's not on this paper. So I stuck to it. But now, from the beginning, that's how I approach it.
That's good.
With the confidence that I've done the work. So now I enjoy it. Now it's fun to me.
That's good.
I look forward to doing it.
Yeah.
It was a burden.
Yeah.
From that line, preaching was a burden every week
goodness.
for years.
Oh my goodness.
Until recently.
Good man. Oh my goodness.
Yeah. So I love it. I know it's powerful. I respect it. It's not something that I play with, because I do feel we'll be held accountable. For that.
Yeah. Especially when it's something you're called to do. Now that you started to enjoy preaching, which is, I'm so happy to hear that it's now become. And thank you for sharing that real talk. This is what the show is about. It's about getting to know our pastors. You know, I have a friend, Riddell Blackwell. I'm going to say his name. He always says to me, I like to know that my pastor has been through some things. I like to know that my pastor is a little bit dirty. I like to know that my pastor isn't all perfect when he gets on the platform, because that shows me that my pastor is relatable to me.
Right.
And that's sharing. You know, I'm sure some of your congregants are going to be pretty.
I'm happy to share. That's the real talk.
Right. So let's talk a little bit about law school. So now you attended law school. How did that come about? And where did that thought even come about? What made you decide to do that?
Listening to administrators, conference administrators, and not just South Atlantic conference, but when we would go to leadership conferences as pastors, PELC, which we do down in Huntsville, Alabama, Oakwood, in December. A lot of the encouragement that came down from senior men of the work 30 years in, now in leadership, was to my generations to get education. We didn't need as much education in their time, maybe just undergrad theology at Oakwood. And for them, say guys who've been in work, now it's 2022, they have at least 30 years in, MDiv set them apart from their peers. And I always, again, try to listen to counsel, and at least process what they're saying. And again, I felt like education was a gift that I had. I can do it. However, I didn't want to just go back to school for the sake of going back to school, or just say, well, I'm trying to be competitive with my peers in ministry.
Right.
Because it's a lot of time, it's a lot of effort, it's a big commitment to go to school, and also financially. Therefore, I looked at, if I'm going to go back to school and want to accept this counsel from these older, wiser men, I need to make it make sense for me. And I did research. I looked at because one of the things they said specifically was, now you all have MDivs. Most of us have MDivs as pastors, or some level of master's education in religion and theology. Now you need a doctoral level education in order to set yourself apart. And I said, okay, well, in that case, I do need to go back to school.
Mm-hmm.
What I'm going to study, however, I don't want to do anything I've already done. I've done enough theology, undergrad, and a master's in theology. I can self-teach. Excuse me. I can teach myself, so why do I need to go back and pay all this money to be taught things that I already know, or at least have the foundation that I can build on in my own time?
Mm-hmm.
And I've always read. I'm a reader.
Researcher.
Yeah, so I'm doing my work, doing this research, and so what can I do that can not just make me more competitive with my peers in ministry, but can broaden my education, open other doors. And one of the things I came across was law school. I didn't need any extra classes, any prerequisites. Just take a test and go through the process. So I actually researched the process on how to go to law school. And put that there, looked at some other doctoral programs, doing other things, and it just didn't, nothing hit me. And this law school thing is sitting here, and it was a long shot, but I said, I'm just going to try it and see what happens. And I've always looked at, since I started my journey in ministry, what doors are opening and what doors are closing. To me, that's how God is leading me. And no background in pre-law, no political science background. I take the LSAT, I started applying to colleges, and I did the research too. I knew every university in the South Atlantic Conference territory that offered part-time law school courses. Some of them was at night, and I looked at everyone. It was 5 of them. I applied to all of them. And I got accepted into 2 out of the 5, and I actually got moved close enough to attend one of the ones that I was accepted into. And again, to me, this is an open door. And once I go through it, once you get into it, it's just like, man, I'm here now. I've got to finish it. And I've learned also to enjoy the process of school and that journey, because everything that I've already had been through, Savannah State, and switched over, went to Oakwood. I actually spent 1 semester at Columbia Union College, which is Washington Adventist University now, before going to Oakwood. And between Savannah State and Oakwood, I did a semester at Washington Adventist University. And that was a different story. And then Oakwood was a different journey. But I grew, I learned, and when I went to law school, I approached it with that kind of mentality. This is going to grow me. It's going to be a lot of work. I was pastoring full time, but it can be done. And I don't want to just go through it and have to try to survive, but I want to thrive through it. And when I went with that approach, didn't think everything was going to be great, but I look forward to the journey. And it was a great journey. It was hard, a lot of sleepless nights. My schedule was from 3 a.m. to at least 10 p.m. for at least 2 years. I woke up, my alarm was at 3 a.m. every morning, clockwork, until after my 2L year. I was able to settle down a little bit more with my schedule. So I had a great time. It was a different experience, different learning environment, different opportunities, and I had a plan. It was just strictly school, learn how law school is ordered. It was a different academic environment. Your score came down to just one test, final. No real busy work in between that you got to turn in, but that can become a curse too, because you can get comfortable. So I had to learn that, and I did also get involved at certain times with different things going on at school, different opportunities presenting itself. I made a journey out of it.
That's good.
And it was very rewarding.
That's good. That's good.
Churches, I didn't even tell them I was going to school until
you mentioned that.
until I was going to my 3L year. I told my churches.
But why didn't you? Why didn't you tell them?
Because I was going to school, and because I was pastoring and I took it seriously, I wanted to make sure I wasn't cheating. I wasn't cheating the church for the school. And so in my mind, this is one of the challenges I laid on myself. I just operate better that way. If my church don't know I'm in school,
right, they won't feel shortchanged.
Yeah, either. I'm being faithful.
Yeah,
and that was my challenge. But I ain't gonna lie, the third year I was getting wore. By the time those sleepless, those 5 hours of sleep a night started to catch up with me, and I told them. This is my last year of law school, and I did some traveling. I stayed maybe just under an hour from my churches, so I can be close to the school. I moved close enough where I can do both, and I lived like in the middle. I had to travel to school and I had to travel to church, and the traveling, the sleepless nights, and then I was intentional about still being present at home, taking care of wife, taking care of children, involved in their lives. Coaching, even I was still coaching my son. Little league team. Wow! So I was busy. I was active, and it did catch up with me after about 2 years. And so I was able to share that with my churches going into my third year, and it went great. They were more cheering me on. Like, you don't have to do this, man. Elders, I take care of this right here. I'll do this. They wanted me to succeed. They were happy. And that actually pushed me over the hump to finish. Because that last year, even though you know how to approach school, it gets tedious. And just about every program, you feel like giving up at some point. And that last semester, it's like, man, I did all this, but I don't have it left. My churches actually pushed me and prayed me through. That's good. I felt like I couldn't quit then. That's good. Yeah. So you disappoint them now after not telling them. So I said, man, it was easier not telling them because I didn't have all the pressure on me. But then you had the support. I did have the support. And they were actually proud to be a part of the journey. And I couldn't have asked for a better congregation. So law school was the least of my problems. While I was in school, it was work, nothing I wasn't used to. But that actually was it was fun. It was the greatest academic experience I'd ever had. I would do it I wouldn't do it over again. I would not have changed the decision. I would have made the decision to go back. But I don't want to do it again. Right. No. It's funny because as you're talking again, I'm thinking, okay, you seem to start everything a little later in life, but becoming a pastor a little later, the journey, and now law school, the journey. But it's okay. That's all right. It becomes a little harder when we get older. It's not as easy. Just in time. 2 years later. It becomes. But that's quite an accomplishment. That is something that you should be very proud of. I'm sure your family's very proud of you, and your endurance. By the grace. Yes. You're tapping into His grace. Every day. So let's talk about this major event that happened in your life 2 years ago. I have a bucket list. And one of the things that I accomplished around maybe 2.5, 3 years ago was I got my motorcycle license. All right. Not that I'm a lover of motorcycles or anything. I just had it on my bucket list. It's something that I just wanted to do. I also think it's cute to see a girl on a bike. You see? Right. So I went ahead and did that. But I know that you have a love for motorcycles. And 2 years ago, something happened to you. So share with us and tell us about this major event that happened in your life 2 years ago. So you were just celebrating me for, and I appreciate that, graduating and finishing law school journey. Yes. And I wanted to celebrate too. So in 2020, I celebrated by buying myself a motorcycle. I've always loved them. I've ridden motorcycles since I was young, but it was always somebody else's motorcycle. I had my license 10 years ago, but when I was about to get my first actual bike, my wife didn't want me to get one because my son was young, and then when I was about to get it the second time, my daughter came along, and it's like delay. Have children, and my wife can be, I don't care whose wife it is, can be very persuasive at times, especially when it comes to, I don't want you to do this for these kids. So put the kids. And so I said, okay, I'm not going to fight that one. That's not a battle worth fighting. But I knew in my mind, this is happening one day. We're not having any kids. The kids are, stop, we're done now. Right? And so I said, let me give her enough time to get up in age, be a little more independent, and then it's happening. It's happening. This was a great excuse now. Law school, and husbands get wiser too. When you're dealing with a spouse, they have their ways, and you learn to develop yours. And excited moments are a great time for a husband to take advantage of. And so you should celebrate. You do something great. I was thinking the same thing.
Exciting moment you learn to take advantage of. Oh, wow.
And she wasn't expecting, I think I'm going to get a motorcycle now. I ain't say all that, but yeah, come on. And in that moment, I promise you, I did not hesitate. I did not give her a chance to think about a way to get me out of it. I took my daughter with me. We'll be right back. And I went and I came back with a motorcycle that same day. It all happened so fast, and no regrets. I said finally. So and I rode my bike every single day. It wasn't raining. I would ride it to the gym. I was playing basketball. I ride it wherever I could ride it. I rode it. Loved it. My best friend. It was. If you ride bikes, they call it sometimes wind therapy, and just stressed out. Just go for you a ride. And let the wind hit you. And I rode it every day. And if you ride bikes, you look at the road differently than if you're driving a vehicle, car, or truck.
I don't think even the safety courses prepare you for it.
Right. Yeah. I had taken that. But you look, every pothole, every crack, everything about a road if you drive it on a motorcycle enough. And I had a routine. I went the same places with my bike, to the gym. I could go to church sometimes. And I knew those roads at the back of my hand. I knew them. On January 17th, 2021. 2021. That was the day. I was going to the gym. It was a Sunday. And I played basketball every Sunday at the YMCA. And get there. I was getting older, so I get early. I come to the gym early. I'll stretch. I'll lift some weights and just loosen up before I step in the basketball court. Well, I didn't feel like lifting weights that day. I wasn't gonna play long. I didn't do my regular routine, and I took a detour. I'm gonna go get something to eat, relax a little bit, get there in time to play ball. Still have time to stretch. But I'm coming back now from a different direction, road that I didn't know.
You changed course,
The detour took me a totally different direction than I would have that day. And riding about 50 miles an hour, possibly 55. It was a straight way. Had some side streets, and a truck, SUV. As I'm coming, I see him stop at the stop sign, so I just keep going. And as soon as I get up on it, he tries to turn across from me. And
yikes!
You need, even the courses that you take, defensive driving motorcycle courses, they will teach you need about 3 seconds of reaction time to avoid major collision. I had maybe a half a second.
Because you were already in that space.
And this car turns and hits me. I'm going 55 miles an hour at least.
Oh my goodness.
And 50 miles an hour at least, rather. And it happened so fast, it was nothing to do. I do remember trying to make a quick lay the bike down move, so I can, because in your mind you either going to T-bone it, go flying over it, or you try to lay it down, go under it. I wasn't going under the SUV, but I just figured like it was the safest way to go. That's all I remember, other than flying through the air.
Wow.
I don't know exactly what happened. I don't know. exactly what angle it hit me. But I do know now I flew backwards. 55 miles an hour going one way. Now I'm hit and I'm going backwards.
Wow.
And I'm looking at a clear blue sky. It seemed like that moment lasted forever. And I just remember thinking, like, man, this is it. This is how my family called me Damo. This is how old Damo is going out right here. I'm flying through the air. And I just remember being at peace. I wasn't afraid. I was like praying, God save my soul. But honestly, at that moment, I'm looking at this sky and I felt peace. Like, man, I'm gonna have a saved soul. I'm not God, but I felt like I had a saved soul.
Wow.
And I remember thinking, like, my kids gonna be with them kids that grew up. My father died when I was 12, 13, and that kind of, it's like, wow, you know, I wish I had something to do. I wish I could change that, but you really have time to think. I don't know how long I lasted in that air, but those are the things
the thoughts that went through your mind.
But the main thing that sticks out was I really felt like I had a saved soul. And then I had to black out. I wake up, now I'm on the ground. I wake up and there's already cars pulled over, so I had to be out for a little while. And there's a lady, she's over me, she's crying, I can still see her face. And she's saying, don't move, because my first reaction, I'm looking around, and I'm thinking, man, I'm alive. And I go to try to
just to
get
know
up.
you woke up.
Yeah.
yeah.
I'm thinking, wow. And I tried to get up in my mind, I'm thinking, get up. And so I had to make some kind of move. She's like, no, move. But I'm not moving because she's telling me not to move. I can't move.
Body wasn't
I'm thinking,
moving.
like, man, I'm trying to move my leg, it's not moving. And then I can move my neck, and I actually look down, and just the top of my thigh here is kind of wiggling. And I'm thinking, like, no, that ain't right. That's something's wrong with that picture.
Oh my God.
And I'm trying to move something else, I can't move it. And I'm thinking, like, man, I might not be dead, but I'm paralyzed. Oh my God,
goodness.
I can't move. And I'm now anxiety is setting in. Oh man, I'm jacked up. I don't know what's wrong with me. I can't move this. I can't move that. People telling me don't move. There's people pulled over. The ambulance pull up. Maybe 2 minutes from the time that I can remember actually waking up. And so they got me up, and I realized at this moment all I know is I have broken bones. Rushed to the hospital, and that's a whole. I mean, that experience it was traumatizing, really. It was.
And 2021 was during pandemic time, so that whole hospital,
it was traumatizing. Even from that, I go into emergency surgery, and of course I had to be put to sleep. This happened. Maybe it's about 2:00 in the afternoon. I wake up from surgery at 11 o'clock at night, and I'm in a room by myself. The hospital at the time had a no visitor policy after 7 o'clock. It's COVID era, it's overcrowded, understaffed. So when I wake up in the hospital room, I'm by myself, and I can't reach anything. And I'm there for at least an hour and a half before a nurse comes in and explains to me why nobody's in here. I don't have a phone. I can't call anybody. That first night was really a hard night. And I didn't see anybody until
you couldn't even talk to your family. You couldn't
even
talk to your
And the nurse was in and out. I had a nurse that I was asking for some pain medication, and she said, "Well, I gotta turn you. I gotta pick your leg up because I had a broken femur. So I have a rod in here. I had a fractured pelvis.
Oh my goodness.
The ball that goes into your hip socket was broken off into the socket. My leg was disconnected. So I have screws there. I have a rod in the femur. The screws down in the knee. I think my kneecap split. I had a broken thumb over here. Wow. And I have a scar in my head, but from what could have been, I could have had a cracked open skull or something.
Yeah.
Because I wasn't wearing the helmet.
That was going to be my next question. Were you wearing a helmet?
I only had on I had a ski mask. It was in the mid-January. It was wintertime. I had on my full gear. Jacket, pants, pads,
helmet,
boots, all that. And I had on it was a thick ski mask, but it was a different material. But no helmet.
And is that something you always did, riding without a helmet?
I did, because I would only put a helmet on if it was cold and I wanted to keep warm. Never wore a helmet for protection. And it was not state law in South Carolina to have on a helmet.
But still,
So, but I realized, okay, I have broken bones, but I'm still in my right mind as far as I know. I came out, I'm blessed. Yeah. And I realized, too, that I flew backwards. Imagine going 50 miles an hour this way and going backwards. Because I do remember when I did wake up, I could see my motorcycle with what was left of it. Front wheel was gone, the back of it was tore up. I mean, the shield was shattered. It was just a frame under this truck.
Oh my goodness.
And I could see the accident. So that's how I know I flew backwards too, because I was looking up at the sky. Because my original thought was I had to fly over. But that's not what happened. So just going that fast to going backwards, and again, not splitting your head open, that's a blessing all on its own. Yeah. And so coming out of it made me realize, well, then I must really have a purpose, and also realizing to myself, man, I had a saved soul. I know me better than anybody else, and I always strive to live a righteous life, but I came up short plenty of times. And to know that in my heart, to feel that in my heart I was saved, and I mean, I can go on now. I can go on now with some boldness that if I stay in the same lane, just close to it at least, because nobody's going to be perfect. I've erased the thought of. And I never preach perfection. I just preach living a disciplined life in Christ, living a disciplined place for what you know and your values. Because I've seen, not just in theory, but I've lived different experiences to know when you step away from your values and yourself, it leads to destruction. Sticking to these values, staying close by, no matter how you fall, relapse, whatever the case may be. If you stay in this lane, it's a pretty good space to be in. And so I feel like if I don't detour majorly, then I can live life now with a peace that I didn't have before, because you don't know. You're trying. That's the other struggle about pastoring and leading people. You're trying, you're hoping that you're doing, but I mean, again, you can't. Nobody's gonna be perfect, but that is something that keep you up at night. When you're not living up to your full potential, and you're pastoring, there's something you're not whole. Something's going on in your heart and your mind. It's hard to sleep at night.
Oh boy.
I don't have those kind of nights, at least as many times I did before. I mean, now I can go to sleep with some peace, and I can actually preach that with a different mindset. So the experience, painful, and learn to walk again.
Yeah, what was the rehab? I was going to ask you, what was the rehab like afterwards?
Well, it was more of just sitting and staring at walls, and then sitting up. It was a real slow process, sitting up, and then turning to sit on the side of the bed. Humbling, because now I just can't get up and go to the restroom. Somebody's got to help me. Somebody's got to help bathe me. Somebody's got to bring me a bedpan. I had the catheter. That scared me when I was like, oh my God, I got this bag thing on me. And your ignorant mind at the time, and you've seen certain things, but it's like, man, I'm the man with the bag. All these thoughts in my head. Oh man, this is gonna be my life. No. But as the time goes on, different things are being removed. You're able to now at least get up and get to a chair, get in a wheelchair to go anywhere. That was for months, and then now take some steps with a walker. And everything that you did, everything that I did, well, it started from the hospital. Just to back up a little bit. In the hospital, I wanted to get out of there so bad. I'm in there for a week now, and it's still understaffed. This lady tried to move me by herself. Used to be two people. Try to reposition my leg, and instead of waiting for help, she said, "I got it myself." She throws it up in the air and try to put a pillow up under me, to another pillow to prop my leg up more. Oh, I thought my leg came off.
Oh,
she
my
threw it up and
goodness. That's what I thought you were going to tell me, that she messed up something.
God, get me out of this place.
Right.
And they send in some hospital assistants and physical therapists, and they're telling me, in order for you to go home, I'm like, when can I go home? When can I go home? In order for you to go home, you got to be able to do this. Well, now I have a challenge.
And you love to be challenged, too.
I cried trying to sit up. I cried. I'm in so much pain trying to get to this chair. But my goal was to
go home,
out of here. And they said, well, you're able to do this. You're not here yet. We want to put you in a facility. I guess it's sort of like a nursing home is what went through my mind. And I said, no, I'm going home. I was set up in-house, everything, but I'm going home. I was adamant about that. So I was able to go home just after a week. And everything started coming to my house, physical therapist, from a wheelchair to little walkers around, from just the living room to the wall, to television, back to now taking a step outside. Just get outside, turn back around, come back in. These are all months and weeks that's going by. And then taking my walker to the street and back in. Now get in the car and get out. I do all these things. Occupational therapy, broke my hand.
Oh my goodness.
So it was a long
process,
painful, and you just all will at some point, because it was depressing to me, staring at walls, not being able to move, not being able to go to the restroom. That was frustrating. We got closer to my family. My wife now become my home caretaker. My children had to help. It was humbling. My son having to now, I'm the baby, helping
take
out.
care of you.
But our bond grew closer. My daughter just, she's always been a daddy's girl. And by my side, I just wanted to be around me. So the family time was very important. Having a strong family was important at that time, and having the will just to get back up. And wanting to get back. So once I realized it was broken bones, this, broken bone, that, but it can heal and you can have a recovery. It's going to be a journey. And my mindset is, okay, make this happen. Make sure I'm doing everything on my part. Even with physical therapy, their job was trying to hold me back, because I didn't care if it hurt. I was trying to do everything as fast as I can. And I was like, no, you could do more damage trying to do this.
Trying to overdo it. And, but you pushed yourself.
I was made up. And now this is going on 2 years. I went from walker to cane to now I'm walking with no assistance at all. I have a little limp. One leg is bigger than the other one.
That's fine. All you have both legs.
But I'm walking now. I can walk a couple of miles. I'm not running yet. I had to make my downstairs office pretty much until my bedroom, put a orthopedic bed, I guess that's what you call it, whatever they have in the hospital, in the room. I couldn't go upstairs for a year where my bed was. Just getting back in my bed, that was an accomplishment. So it's really been just a couple of months now, not walking with any other kind of assistance and being able to get around and go places, and drive. And I appreciate all that now more than I did before. And with all that being said, I still love motorcycles. If it wasn't for my wife, now she really got something to come at me with.
And you haven't been on one since?
I haven't been on one.
Okay.
But I would happily get back
the goal
on.
is
That
the
sounds
goal
crazy. But I would happily get
with
back
a helmet.
On one. With a helmet. And probably just stick to my routine for now. Stay away from those detours. But that'll be a long time from now. It'll be a
Wow.
while if that happens. It's gonna be a while.
And are there any side effects from the accident in terms of, because we were talking earlier and you mentioned memory maybe a little bit, or what other side effects that you have from the accident?
I'm slow. That's the main thing.
That's understandable.
I'm slow. Yeah, that I do.
Slow in walking, processing. What's slow?
Well, yeah, walking, but I think it also leads to everything else. I just do everything slower now. I have more time to actually just sit back and think before I do anything.
Okay.
Not as impulsive. Always rushing. Like I said, 3:00 a.m. getting up. That's my alarm. Get up from that moment on. I just go into cloud work. You can go do my hygiene things. I'm gonna get up. I'm gonna do this. I gotta be here this time. My schedule was strict. So now, no, I just get up and just thank God. I'm still get up, do my hygiene and my devotion. That's how I start my day every day. Unless something go wrong. But that's how I start my day. And that time now I appreciate more. I used to be in a hurry. I do devotion because I knew something that I needed to do, that it was important. I take the pastoral job serious. So I need to do devotion. Now I can actually sit there and take my time. When I wasn't moving, I got back into actually reading for myself. I wasn't reading for class. I wasn't reading to prepare. I just actually sat back to enjoy things that I was interested in, and I can just enjoy sitting back reading. And that's what I mean earlier about I preach from overflow. Now it's just I read that I couldn't do anything else. Wasn't a big TV watcher, so just having all that time to read and knowing that the world didn't stop. My family, they can take care of me when I need them to. I didn't have to be Superman. I didn't have to overreach. I enjoy doing all those things. And then some areas I might still want to do those things. But I enjoy a slower pace now.
It's so funny because, we have this thing where, things happen sometimes to slow us down. God causes things to happen sometimes to slow us down. Yeah. Have you ever thought that maybe this accident was to slow you down?
Oh yeah. I mean, and you want to make sense of it.
In your mind, in your head, why, what happened,
that's what
the reasoning.
And I do think it was time for me to slow down. Now I do have a law degree. I'm waiting for my bar results to come back and to see what doors can be available and what opens up from there. And just unpacking what's in front of me. I'm not striving anymore. I'm not reaching for anything right now. And I enjoy the pace. So slow as in time. I do find myself being more forgetful. Yeah, I do. But I don't like to give a lot of credit to. I don't like to give a lot of credit to this is because of the accident. I try not to think about it. If why I'm forgetting, if I'm forgetting something, what can I do to remember? What can I do to erase this issue? Is where I put more focus on. But I do have a little scar. I was bald before. I had been bald for years. Almost 10 years maybe. A straight bald in my head, razor every day. And I grew my hair back. When I was a young teenager, high school, early on in college, my hair was growing out for 5-6 years. And I cut it, listened to some wise counsel again, say, young man, you need to cut your hair, you're going to be taken serious for a job. And I cut my hair, ended up balding it. It looked pretty good on me. I thought it looked good on me, so I kept it. I rolled with them, but I did not like the little scar showing. And then my hair was growing because I wasn't doing it myself. I didn't go to a barber. I did it myself to save money, and at that time it wasn't happening. So I still had some hair left, and it's still growing, and it started growing, and my daughter. My wife has gotten real good at doing hair, so she's the one to take care of my hair, braids my hair, and So I've kind of stuck with this to cover up the spot. I am a little, I'm not gonna say self-conscious about it, but I knew it was there. It was something different.
So your reasoning for growing the hair, of course, is to cover the scar and it makes you more comfortable. What has the feedback been from your congregation regarding, because me sitting here looking at you with the braided hair, not the typical pastor look, not the typical conservatory look, conservative, that's the word, look. What's the feedback like? Not just from your congregation, but from other people who come across you and find out you're a pastor. What's that like?
From my past, they said,
judgmental.
Going back. So anybody from home, Savannah, Georgia, and who knew me, this was an old look. Oh, you grew your hair back. And not much from there other than that. With my congregation, it became a playful thing. Because when I first started coming back, we started coming back into the building. It all happened during COVID. So that's the other thing. I was laid up reading books during COVID. So that helped me not lose my mind. I don't know about other people, but I wasn't going anywhere anyway. When I did come back, and my hair was going back, again, I always did my own hair, so I would just give myself a tape up because it was easier to maintain. Shaving your hair every day is actually work. That's a part of waking up at 3 a.m., which I wasn't doing anymore. So we started going back, and my wife then started, first she started putting a little twist in it and doing things. And so I came to church, first day I had a twist in my hair, first time I did anything to manipulate it other than pick it out. And I preached, I had fun with it. And I was saying how when you are alpha male and now you are in a position where you are dependent on other people, your wife want to take advantage of you. And now she just plays with my hair like I'm a doll. And they laugh at that. And so the next week I come back and it's braided. And they come back and what she did. So every week now
it's
I roll with it.
And
looking forward to what the pastor hair looks like. And I'm at this time I came back to church, I still had a cane. Really when I came back in, I'm self-conscious really about a whole lot. My hair was the least of my worries. When I came
not
back
being
in,
able to walk strong and
I thought I was invincible. I'm young. Again, I wasn't living a perfect life, but I felt like I was faithful, I was diligent where I was supposed to be. So in my mind, I'm being faithful to all these areas, and I take care of my body, I eat right, I've always been an athlete, so I take care of my body, I know my body, work out, I read, I do all the things you want to do to have a healthy mind and body. I'm going to live till I'm 90 years old, everything's going to be all good. Well, that's gone. Now I'm in here, I'm already looking at 90 years old, and in my 30s. So I'm self-conscious about all that. So with the congregation playing with me pretty much with my hair, it actually started to make me feel good. And
they weren't
so
as
it became
judgmental.
An icebreaker to come back. Because they had an interim pastor. Elders had been holding this thing down for almost over. We had COVID, so actually when I first came back to church, I came back remotely. And then when I went back into the building, I hadn't seen them for 6 months. We're actually open almost a year because of COVID. And it was something that it was unique. So came back in, that broke the ice. And so they made this part easy.
They made you comfortable. They didn't judge. So that was good. Was good.
They didn't.
You have a good congregation.
I love those people.
Yes, really because some other places would probably be like, where are you going with that? Or that's not the look of a pastor. So but need to look beyond that. I've always focused more on my character than how I looked, because I don't like wearing ties. I know that this is what the typical pastor does, but for me, anything I do, I want to do and feel comfortable doing. Again, I want to feel competent. I want to like. If I don't like what I'm doing, then I'm not going to do it. Even when I didn't like preaching, I still like the other parts of pastoring. I actually did like business members. I was country pastoring. I go fishing with members. I was doing things. I'm loving this.
The only thing I didn't like doing was preaching.
You were still ministering.
So, I had no problem with the job.
Mm-hmm.
So actually, loving to preach now was a bonus. So with the hair, it was something that was fun. And by the time I go anywhere else, because we do move around, I don't whatever.
Wow.
It'd be all right.
Well, it's nice to know that you have rebounded, that you're still healing from this. That was quite an experience. Quite an experience. Taught you to slow down. And I'm sure, well, I can say, I didn't hear you preach prior, but I know that when I did hear you preach, the passion, the commitment that I heard, and the story of the accident, which is how you ended up being a guest on the show, was when I heard that, just what came out of your mouth about that experience. I'm sure it changed your life in so many ways, including how you preach and how you minister. So I'm happy to see that God is still working on you. And
And it gave me credibility. Came in as a young pastor. I've always tried to tailor my ministry to the older generation because I felt like they were the hurdle that I needed to jump in order to actually be a leader here. And so being young, I've always connected with the youth as a pastor, and I've been intentional about connecting with the older generation. Well, now I think I have an old style of preaching and catering to the other generation. I was maybe stepping away from the youth, but now I look like them. When I walk in with it's all the young brothers looking now. So when I walk in like that, and you ride motorcycles, I like him.
Relatable.
I embrace everything. And this is like when I did with school. I embraced the ups, the downs. I really tried to embrace. Instead of complaining and focusing on negativity, I'm just trying to focus on positive things. What was good, embrace everything that comes, and make the best out of it.
Absolutely.
That's my approach.
Absolutely. Well, Pastor, Doctor.
Boy, I told you to put that on there.
Dominique Best. As we prepare to close, what I will ask of you is just to look into the camera and just give some words of advice. Whether it's to young people who are struggling to face decisions that they're making in their life, because I know your journey with law school and your pastoral journey was through research and just putting your mind to it and enduring it, or just someone who may be struggling with life itself. You made it through this experience 2 years ago, and you're standing in victory. And you're walking in victory, not just walking in faith, literally walking on your legs. So just give some words of advice, because this show is designed to uplift and encourage.
Sure. I'm going to say to trust your instincts, trust what you've been taught, trust your heart, trust your feelings, and stick with those values. Peer pressure is serious. You want to try different things. You want to go different areas that you maybe not have experience in. Maybe not have had any experience in the different areas. Stay true to yourself. Don't deviate. At least don't deviate too far. There's a safe place in your education, Christian education, or background, your faith. When it comes to secular education, going to school, there really is benefit in it. Reading, educating yourself. Outside of the traditional schooling, also read for yourself. Be a person who reads critically, ask questions, challenge some things. You will only get better from it. And as you get older, from the older generations, embrace change. Your body is going to change, your hair is going to change. We get older. As you get older, hopefully you get wiser, but embrace change and ask, how can this be a benefit to you? What is God trying to do as things change in your life? So I'm big on educating yourself, being a self-educator, outside of what you're learning in school, read, study, and you don't need to go to school for everything. Just read. Reading and learning is a blessing, and embrace change as things in your life change. Get married, you have children. Life is going to always be changing. Focusing on the negative parts of that will lead to stress, depression, and everything else. Embrace it and try to learn from it, get better from it, get better at it, and I think that you will be surprised at how your life starts to unfold. So those two things, education and embracing change, would be my words of encouragement for anyone listening today.
Well, thank you so much. Thank you so much for blessing us.
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you so much for taking the time out of your busy schedule and for being a guest on the show. I truly appreciate it. And I pray that you will continue to walk in God's grace and mercy. And I pray that He will just continue to bless you richly, you and your family. Thank you again.
Again, thank you for having me. And yes. I pray that God continue to bless what you're doing here.
Thank
Real
you.
Talk with Michelle.
Thank you so much.
Right.
Thank you. Thank you. And to you, our viewers, thank you for watching. Thank you for your continued support on this platform. I really pray that you are blessed by the testimony and the walk and the journey of Dr. Pastor Dominique Best. He survived a horrific experience 2 years ago, and God has brought him through, and He can bring you through. Thank you for watching. And if you wish to reach us, please feel free to reach us at realtalkwithmichelle1@gmail.com. Again, that's realtalkwithmichelle1@gmail.com. Until next time, let's have some real talk.